This is a video that explains further the concept of incremental internal rate of return analysis when you're evaluating between projects. So this is the step-by-step procedure that we use to evaluate a project, and I'm going to read it and then I'm going to go through step by step and show you how it's done on an example. So the first thing you do is you calculate the internal rate of return for each of the alternative investments that you have. Now, if any of the IRRs are less than the required rate of return, which is that MAR value, the minimum attractive rate of return, you can eliminate that alternative. And then what you do is you rank the investments from the lowest investment amount to the highest investment amount. So that means the time period 0 value, you rank it according to the lowest time period 0 to the highest. And if two investments have the same investment amount, you choose the one with the higher IRR. And then you evaluate incremental investments, comparing alternatives in pairs, one at a time, starting with the lowest investment amount as follows. So you calculate the incremental cash flow, or the difference in cash flow between the two pairs that you're evaluating. Then you calculate the internal rate of return on that incremental cash flow. And if the internal rate of return of the incremental cash flows is less than the minimum attractive rate of return, then you choose the lowest cost alternative and you eliminate the higher cost alternative. And the opposite is true if it's greater than MARR. Then you evaluate the next highest cost alternative until comparing to the one you just chose. And you continue until all alternatives are evaluated. Okay, so let's look at an example of this. So in this case, I have a list of investments there that are A, B, C, D, E, and the minimum attractive rate of return is 7%, and it says to evaluate this using internal rate of return. And what you need to know is you need to use incremental analysis whenever you're comparing multiple alternatives. So the first thing you do is you calculate the internal rate of return of each investment. So you can see for the internal rate of return on project A, I take the return of 5670 divided by the investment of 5,000, subtract 1 from that and make it into a percentage, and that is the internal rate of return. And I do that for every single alternative, and none of them are less than 7%, so I can't eliminate any of them. So the next thing I do is I'm going to rank them from lowest investment amount to highest. So you can see that C is the lowest investment amount with 3,000. The next is B, after that is A, and then finally D. And so I have an order now, C, B, A, D. Then I calculate the incremental cash flows of investing in B as opposed to C. And that means that the initial investment amount will be $1,500 with a return of $1,478. Now actually we can see that return is less than the investment amount. So the IRR is actually less than 0, which is also less than 7%. So in this case we're going to eliminate B because it's not a good incremental investment, and we're going to keep C. So now we have B gone, and now we're going to compare C to A because that's the next in our order. So we calculate the incremental investment amount. So if I invest in C, I'm going to be investing $2,000 more, and I'm going to get $2,170 more in return, which is an internal rate of return of 8.5%. So that means it's greater than 7%. So I'm going to go ahead and say that then that A is a good investment. That extra $2,000 is a good extra amount to spend. I'm getting more than my minimum attractive rate of return. So I'm going to eliminate C, and now I'm going to have A left. And then the next evaluation I'm going to use is the difference between D and A. So I see that if I want to invest in D, I have to invest an extra $1,000, and the return I'm getting is $1,830, which is actually a really good return of 83%, which is greater than the 7%. So that means I'm going to actually eliminate A and invest in D. Now there's no more evaluations to do because I've done all of the projects. So that means that we're going to be choosing alternative D in this case.